election day, and we're not going to be talking about the polls and things like that. Uh, but the Steelers are now firmly in the lead in the AFC North poll for the season. I am Joey here in all of my black and yellow shame for the Ravens' performance on Sunday, and I'm joined by, and I'm sure elated, Steelers Chad.
I'll tell you what, Joey, it feels great. Today is a great day. I was prepared to go on a milk carton. I was prepared to go out and protest some Americans' ballots being counted if necessary, because you can't have too many people voting. Like, look, we're we're a democracy, but we're more of a republic. You know what I mean? We just can't be having all those votes. But instead, I thought I'm going to do the hard thing. I'm going to come on here into a tense environment. The election's easy. That's over now. We're going to talk football. I know this is going to hurt a little bit, but we're going to get into it. So, what are you doing to drown your sorrows today, Joey? I know it's painful. How are you drowning your sorrows? You got some aminos.
Nope, just a regular old protein shake. Just the status quo, trudging through the monotony of 5-2, losing to the two nearest contenders in the conference already.
It's tough. It's tough. It's also not great material for the podcast because we've already done this for the Browns. They've lost to the two teams that they go up against. So we'll have to come up with a new way to spin it. Um, I have a delightful little number for us tonight. It's called the Jolly Abbot because I'm feeling good, Joey. Jolly Abbot. It is a barrel aged sour barley wine by Hermit Thrush. Hermit Thrush is a fantastic brewery out of southern Vermont. Their motto is, yes, it's all sour. So all the beers they make have a sour note to them. They even do a little bit of dabbling into the cider market, which I'm not into, um, just because it's overwhelming. Like I know about beer, and that's my lane. But they're great. So it's gonna be really nice, Joey. We're gonna just be feeling really good. We're going to talk some great football, some really great football by at least one team in the AFC North, probably two.
Yeah, I
And
was just thinking that if from about halftime on Sunday until right now, if I could describe uh, the vibe in Ravensland, it would be yes, it's all sour.
I like that, Joey. I like that, Joey. Mm. Okay. Oh, that is great. Good
But
choice.
first, before we get to uh, what happened to the big crab cake on Sunday, we're going to start with some of the teams that are entering a bye and going into the bye week with in kind of going in two different directions. We will start in Cleveland. The Las Vegas Raiders came to town and played in like gale force winds against the Cleveland Browns, who were sans OBJ for the first full game this year after his injury. And they lost. The Browns lost 16-6.
Six.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just
missed a late field goal to try to make it a one-score game.
it was just like an all-around pathetic effort. And frankly, a little bit from both teams, but mostly the Browns. And like I think for me, it all could be summarized by one play on the first drive. Miles Garrett comes around the corner. Raiders have the ball. Browns on defense. Miles Garrett comes around the corner, gets his big old telephone pole arms swinging, coming down like the hammer of Thor. And Derek Carr just slides right out of the way by a mere inches. And he looks down the field and he cocks it back and he throws a bullet and Ronnie Harrison is right there, hits him, probably hits him in the numbers. I don't remember exactly, but it was like an easy interception, and he drops it. The Browns just couldn't. They browned it. They browned it, and this is what makes me so mad about the Browns. I spent the first 3 weeks of the season talking about how the Browns stink, even though their players are all really good, and then they started to play well. I was like, okay, let's get on the Kevin Stefanski train. Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's get on the train. And then they do bullshit like this. And it's like, yeah, the weather stinks. Oh, gee, Willikers. You have like the best offensive line in football. You have still an all pro running back who you gave 16 carries to instead of 25 throws for Baker. I know the game script wasn't really like in the Browns' favor here, but I just I just hate the Browns. And they did this all game. Like at the end of the first half, it nobody was playing well. It was 6-3 Raiders. The Browns killed their own drives, of which there were three in the first half. They had three possessions.
I
Yeah,
think, yeah, the Raiders kicked a last-minute field goal at halftime to make it 6-3.
yeah. So
So, like, it was
there
even
was a lot.
closer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so stupid. Like the Browns kept hurting themselves with pre-snap penalties and then drops. Joku had a big drop. There are drops by everybody. I think even Jarvis had a drop. And the Raiders were missing throws and having drops. It was just sloppy mess. But the one thing the Raiders were doing was committing to the running game. I think they were both averaging pretty similar in yards, but the Raiders really committed to it. They're like, let's just pretend it's 1931. Um, and they got away with a win. You know, the Browns just, I mean, I could look at anything I wrote down and it was the Browns making a dumbass mistake. Like it just happened over and over again at every single key moment. Um, and a little bit of bad luck, you know. I think Jarvis like so close to having a touchdown. How about Jarvis Landry? I love that guy.
He's
I
tough,
just love
man.
this guy. Yeah.
Even that last drive with the ball in the end zone where Baker's trying to fucking send him to meet God, um, which is a theme in
Yes.
the AFC North this week. And he like crawled for a little bit and got back up. It was like, man, that's like the gritty toughness that Cleveland wants all their players to embody.
You know what I loved about that? They kept telling all these stories over the last couple weeks about how Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry were in like adjoining rooms when they were getting their ribs x-rayed the other week. This was leading up or after the Steelers game. I think it was leading up to the Steelers game. And on that very drive, Baker Mayfield ran on like a 2nd and 9. He ran and got absolutely clocked
Yeah.
to make it 3rd and 1. Then they did a QB sneak. You know he's dying. He gets clocked again, you know, because they just pile up on him. And you know Baker was thinking, I just need a cool roomie for my x-ray tonight. So he just throws a classic hospital ball to Jarvis on the next play in the end zone. Like, I know it. I know it. I know it, Baker. I know that's what you were doing. Um, but Jarvis had a couple other really good moments too. I guess it was the second half in the third quarter. The Browns had a really nice drive, and he had a catch on the side or on an out route, and he like tiptoed up the sideline doing cool stuff. And a couple plays after that, he very nearly had a touchdown on a over the shoulder catch. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was an interesting review.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, did you have an opinion on it?
No, I mean,
I
it
think
was
you just didn't.
close. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
okay with it not being called a touchdown. The little tightrope walk is probably the farthest I've ever seen anybody do that in an NFL game.
yeah.
Like he just kept going. I was
Dude,
like,
he
oh
was like
shit.
leaning out of bounds, but he
Yeah.
just kept moving his little feet. So that was cool. And every time the Browns stink, Jarvis does something cool anyway. That's just how Jarvis works.
Yeah.
He's a winner. He may not belong there, but he'll probably stick it out, and hopefully he'll help lift the team up to being well right where they are, just barely not as good as the teams we actually root for. I just hate the Browns. I know that I said that they could lose this game and still make the playoffs, and I still believe it.
Yeah,
But
they
dude,
probably
they
will
just
still.
stink. They just stink. How could they not put up a better effort?
Yeah, I guess for me it's just so I think they fucked up when they got rid of John Dorsey. And like all the like really good team construction stuff happened when Dorsey was here. And after him, not much has really not much has really happened except getting rid of Schobert and Kirksey and Demarius Randall and like yeah, it sucks that your number one draft pick got hurt and that would definitely help their secondary right now. But I think this iteration of their team, and I think they have a pretty favorable cap situation, but I think their ceiling is like a fringe wild card team, and that's kind of also what the Raiders are. The way that Carr plays so conservatively, so both these teams are pretty much in the same station in NFL life, in my opinion. And this was a close, sloppy game in like wind and rain and just kind of a suck fest all around.
The one thing I will say is that I'm not sure that Renfro's touchdown was a touchdown. The ball moved and it hit the ground.
Yeah, on the little
And
quick slant.
even I don't think it matters. I mean, I think the Browns lose anyway because they stink, but like I could see how Browns fans will be mad about it, so I want to bring it up in solidarity. I don't think it was a touchdown. Like the ball hit the ground. I don't think his hand was under it, and the ball moved, um, which means that he wasn't in full possession of it. So I'm sorry, Browns fans, but if it makes you feel any better, most of this you did to yourself. Like everything they screwed up. They had like a sweet punt that they almost stopped on the 1 yard line, and that got called for a touchback. And then on like the first third down, Ogunjobi got a sack, but he grabbed Derek Carr's face mask. So instead of a 20-yard loss, it's a 15-yard gain.
Yep.
It's like, dude, they just brounced it. Like they just brounced
The
it
the
through and
Harrison
through.
Bryant fumble was like an inexplicable.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Like
that was the
you
second
hardly
time.
see a fumble happen like in that fashion. Like yeah,
Yeah, he's just like an idiot. And also, I didn't notice it as much in the second half, maybe because they weren't running as much. But Baker Mayfield looked like he was about to fall down like 3 different times when he was doing handoffs. What was that all about?
I don't know. He did it on play action too, like a
Yeah,
bunch of times.
it's like, is
Maybe
that just his?
the field was sloppy. I don't
Yeah, that's just his new footwork.
know. It's like a drunken master type of thing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Browns game if I didn't talk about Miles Garrett. So he was coming into this game with some sort of gimpy ankle, I guess. He had that first pass rush that he I mean, really looked like he was about to get a strip sack, and that's the Miles Garrett move. Um, I've been reluctant to bring this up, so I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up right now. But if I was going to bring it up, because he's injured, so I'm not going to bring it up. But if I was going to bring it up, I would say that I think Miles Garrett is a little bit lazy in the run game. I just don't think he tracks down the line of scrimmage very well. He gets some tackles, but they're usually 5 or 6 yard gains. He's pretty happy to like trail. He's not aggressive like the Steelers outside edge guys are, or a guy like Suggs who made
Yeah.
a name for himself, like really locking it in the run game. Like I don't really understand it. I'm sure it's because he's hurt. I'm not bringing it up. I'm not bringing it up. But if I was going to bring it up, I would say like I'd like to see a little more effort on regular plays from a defensive player of the year candidate. I was preparing for him to miss most of this game with injury because I heard he got hurt before I watched it, and I just kept seeing him on the field. So
Yeah.
apparently, whatever the injury was, it didn't like require hospitalization. He apparently was only playing third downs by the end of the game, which is perfect for him because that's when he wants to try, right? He wants to go get the quarterback. I'm not saying that, but if I was going to say it, that's what I would say. So Myles Garrett, if you want to vote for a Defensive Player of the Year and be super lame, still your guy.
There you
5
go.
and 3.
Any other notes? We don't have any Player of the Week candidates from this football game. I don't think.
No. Player
right.
of the get out of here.
So the Browns enter their Week 9 bye week, which is a pretty perfectly placed bye week, if you ask me.
Me too.
5 and 3. Firmly in third place in the AFC North. And I think if the season ended today, they would be the 6th seed above Oakland. I don't think anybody else is floating around there. I don't know what Indy's record is, but
yeah, I mean that. All of that being said, and it was an ugly game, and that's just the way it needs to be described. All that being said, they are still right on script. All they need to do is beat the teams that, as of last week, had 1 win or less. That's all they got to do. The Raiders weren't on that. You get to lose this game. That's all part of the script. Now, if you'd have done better than the script, that's cool too, but you're not gonna, so that's fine. So the Browns, welcome to the playoffs. Way to earn it. Good job. Very good. And that brings us to the Cincinnati Bengals, who traveled down to Tennessee, and not to pat them, they didn't. It was at, oh, you're right, it was at home. My bad. And as predicted, classic blowout. We knew it was coming. Oh wait, let me actually, it was the exact opposite as we predicted.
You know what though? I did not know last Wednesday that they were going to wear the Color Rush White Tiger uniforms. And if I did, I would have picked them just for sentimental reasons, because that's my favorite uniform in the NFL. The helmets just pop when everything else is white. Like, that shit rocks.
Well, it's the only possible reason you could have used to pick them. They only had one regular starter in the offensive line. That was a right guard,
Crazy.
Alex Redmond. And for the record, Alex Redmond was not the week 1 starter. It was Xavier Zuafilo. So even he was technically a backup. Like, we're going to talk about offensive lines and how it's so hard to survive when you have to put your backups in at key offensive line positions. They're doing that with the whole offensive line.
Hey, I don't know who's going to talk about that 457 yards against the number 2 rush defense in the league. So
I know who's going to talk about it. And it's going to be for weeks.
Yeah.
But
for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fine. So that's just an inside. It's not a joke. We are very sad. There's a Ravens injury we'll talk about later. The Bengals have 5 injuries that they're dealing with. They come in. Fortunately, the Titans don't seem to rush the passer. They don't seem to do it. They did it because there's no one blocking. They still did it, but they didn't do it well enough. And dude, Joe Burrow just out there slinging it. He's doing all sorts of crazy moves, dodging people left and right. I know we were talking about crazy plays that don't do anything, but he had the now craziest play where nothing actually happened.
The most electric 7-yard run ever.
Dude, he's jumping around, he's backspinning, he's doing all the craziest stuff. They should have just given him the first down. You know what I mean?
Just move the chains back.
Yeah. I feel like, you got to just give him the first down, the amount of work he did. But a lot of really nice standout performances in this game, and a lot of nice just play calling. I thought early in the game, particularly I noted on the first drive, they were using Giovanni Bernard all over the place. They were using him nicely in the run game. They didn't abandon the run. And they really were active about getting him the ball in the passing game. And I was like, dude, you just paid your star running back. How come it takes him getting hurt for you to start doing it right with the other guy? So they got a nice drive, started out 3-0. And then our favorite Bengals defender, not Darius Phillips. He's our favorite sentimentally, but the
Yeah.
best, Jesse Bates, making a big time read in the end zone after
Yeah.
a solid Tennessee drive, gets an interception. We've been waiting for those splash plays. Jesse Bates providing it. So, a lot of nice standouts. And they kind of just controlled the whole game, despite the fact that they couldn't stop Derrick Henry because you can't stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Yeah, the secondary has been very maligned this year. Uh, they stepped up multiple times. William Jackson, Jesse Bates, and the Titans pose kind of a different type of threat in the passing game than like a traditional skilled offensive team. Like they're a good and efficient offensive team. At least that's their calling card. But their receivers are more of like physical guys. They're not as much of like separators, I guess. Um, and yeah, I think once the Bengals kind of got rolling, it was like the secondary kind of found their swagger a little bit, and yeah, they really performed. They were very opportunistic, and the offense was just humming. It was ridiculous. T. Higgins was absolutely everywhere, making silly sideline catches. It seemed like all their receivers are like 6'6" with 7-foot wingspans, like Tate and Higgins and AJ. It's like
Yeah.
craziness.
Higgins also had that beautiful sideline catch on the first drive, which like to me that first Bengals drive didn't end in a touchdown, but it really felt like the way the offense ought to be.
Yeah.
Um, and also on the drive in which they took a 10-point lead to make it 17-7, they went for it on 4th and 4 from around midfield, and Joe Burrow dodged a bunch of people for a minute. And then when the play broke down, who did he look to? T. Higgins in the middle. And that told me, and I've noticed that sometimes when I say things like this on the podcast, something crazy different starts to happen as of the next week. But I'm gonna say it anyway. Who cares? This is what we do. T. Higgins is the number one. I know Tyler Boyd is the number one, but T. Higgins is the number one in Joe Burrow's heart. Like when everything
Yeah.
goes to shit, it's all about finding T. Higgins, and he's earning it. He's earning it. He's got the hands. He's making those contested catches that we weren't seeing in the first couple weeks, but we knew he could do it. Um, and he started doing some nice things after the catch to get some tough yardage when they need it. And then that 4th and 4, just a nice, tough, contested catch. He's the guy. He is the guy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Valentine.
You'd have to imagine like this is him like turning the corner. Like he's now comfortable with play calls and what he's running, and
Mm-hmm.
now he can play faster, stop thinking so much, and yeah, he's really flourishing. It's really cool.
And I'd like to give Auden Tate a shout out too, because it's really hard to be a diva wide receiver in the NFL when you're not good enough to actually be a diva. So you just got to like do the dirty work. And he got a couple third down tosses his way short of the sticks. And he made a few really great diving efforts to break tackles and lunged for first downs. And like,
Yeah.
that's just the kind of stuff that keeps you on a team. Like a couple weeks ago, they were talking about rumors of him being traded and stuff like that. And he's clearly doing it, like he's working hard for himself, but also in line for the team. So he's keeping himself on the field and earning those opportunities. You don't just get the ball on third down when you're complaining, like you do
Yeah.
it because you're earning it. So he had a nice little game. The offense is good. Like
Yes.
Zach Taylor is an offensive coach. The offense is good. So let's just take a moment to appreciate that and that took 2 years. Like the Bengals still have half their offense that totally needs to be replaced, and it's a pretty important half. It's the whole offensive line, but like, wait, but they're still doing really well. We're halfway through the season now, and I think it's like, look, we all need to make sure that we only say really nice things about Joe Burrow. So I'm not going to say it again. I'm not going to say it, but it would be nice if we got a couple deep balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm a little concerned about that. Like there's some underthrowing taking place. At first, I thought maybe he was just like trying to learn the back shoulder thing, but I'm a little nervous that maybe he's just like not quite there um, with the deep ball. It might not matter. He's really, really good at other stuff, but um, I just like to see it. You know, he's having a really nice year. Just one like 80-yard touchdown, 40 yards in the air. You know, run the rest of the way. Just one. Not against the Steelers, please, but probably it will be. Um,
Yeah, that's the play the Steelers love to give up.
oh, it sure is. And I think I have to shout out Jayon Brown. I said that I would be focused on him. He taught me that he was good. He almost had an interception to keep Tennessee in the game very late. It probably wouldn't have made a difference. They were down 31-20 already. There's about 2 minutes left. And he did get an interception. Joe Burrow's only terrible throw of the game. But there was a penalty away from the ball, so it got negated and it never counted. But he's lurking. He's lurking. You got to keep in mind because the Ravens haven't played him yet. So keep an eye out for number 55. And Von Bell. We've hardly talked about him.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to not talk about him because he had an interception on 2 straight plays and neither of them counted. He dropped the first one. It was a tough catch. And then the second one was nullified by a penalty. Do you want to know what that penalty was, Joey? I'll tell you.
I'm trying to think if there's any like big time scapegoats. I almost forgot that we weren't talking about the Browns because I was going to guess that it was Myles Garrett.
what I don't remember who it was, but what would you say is the lamest defensive penalty?
Oh, like defensive holding on the D line?
I'll do you one better. Lining up in the neutral zone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Come on, man. He cost your team the ball. Lining up in the neutral zone. Mm-hmm. So, Von Bell, nice job on 2 straight plays. 0 credit. But you got yourselves a win. Dominated the Tennessee Titans.
You got yourselves an AFC Northcast Gold Star. Good job, Von Bell.
Hey, and for the record, like this Titans offense is still good. They still did the things in the fourth quarter that I think we should just expect all year, where the physicality becomes too much for teams to bear. They come back. They were down like 24-7 in the fourth quarter. This is a physical team that's good, and the Bengals have a bad defense, and they came out and just stopped them. We still think the Titans are a pretty good team, right? Like they're a pretty good team.
I think they're good. I think they are in kind of like a no man's land right now. They're better than like Raiders Browns, clearly. But I think they're also clearly not Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs. They're just kind of like stuck in the middle there somewhere because of their defense, I think, and their pass rush. And they haven't been. So last year they were like ungodly efficient in the red zone. Like they basically didn't need their kicker the second half of the regular season.
Yeah, which is good because he stunk.
Yeah, and they are not that this year. They've regressed a little bit, and that's coming to bear here. Yeah, so that's mostly what I've got for the game. Really, really nice. Like, we're going to keep saying nice things about this Bengals offense until it, gets worse. And I don't know how to make it worse because they literally had no offensive line. They still scored 30 points. So, and the Titans aren't bad. They're not a bad team. Like, now we have said it. I said it before they played the Steelers. I don't think their defense exists. So that's part of the reason you get 30 points against them. But then again, the Steelers didn't get 30 points against them. So, good effort. Good job, Bengals. And
should be really proud.
Now the Bengals get to convalesce a little bit on the bye week. They got a win going into the bye week, and then a big old matchup with the Steelers on the other side of it.
Looking forward to it. You know what? We don't give a shit about playing teams coming out of the bye week. We just don't care.
Yeah. And just beat one coming out of the bye week on Sunday. Yeah, perfect segue.
You spent a fair amount of time off podcast explaining to me how this result proved that the Ravens are better than the Steelers. So why don't you summarize the game and maybe do a little Joey gymnastics for us?
Alrighty. First half, First play from scrimmage, pick six. Old concrete head himself, Kevin Spillane. I think it was probably the result of some film study, actually. It seemed like it was a nice play and cut in front of, I think it was Hollywood Brown, who was just kind of sitting, Prochet.
It was his
just
first
trying
target.
To sit in a zone and find a little open spot, and Spillane cut in front of him, took it to the house.
It was beautiful.
And then basically the rest of the first half was the Steelers not moving the football and the Ravens marching up and down the field with the run game, read option style. Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, and Gus the Bus all had 50 yards rushing or more at halftime against the number 2 rush defense in the league. The pass game was more reminiscent of last year, where it was Snead and Andrews here and there. Boykin was involved a little bit early. In fact, I think he caught the first touchdown of the game for the Ravens.
Really nice touchdown. If you want to take a moment, you had your Steelers play the game where Vince Williams was matched up against a wide receiver in single coverage. It's very important because it's going to happen every game, and so you just got to find it.
It's a
but I'll tell you
Allen
what,
special.
He's really not terrible at coverage. He's just not a corner. And Lamar, and I'm going to say some stuff about Lamar as a quarterback. So here we go. Really, really great professional quarterback throw right here is an out route. Lamar released the ball before the route broke outside. So it's just a kind of NFL level coordination between players on a play design that succeeds when you're playing at this level of competition. So probably maybe his best throw of the day. It's a really good touchdown. And it came directly after the AFC North cast predicted Chase Claypool fumble.
Yep.
So that was didn't really like predicting that. Didn't really like predicting that it would happen on his first catch. So sucks to be right.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we talked about his fumble luck and his penchant for some of that already.
Yep.
So at halftime, it was 7. Did they miss the extra point?
No, I think it was 17-7.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
You're right. So 17-7 at halftime. And I didn't rewatch this game, so if you have additional details to add, that's fine. Steelers got the ball at halftime. Drive stalled and they punted.
That's correct.
And then the Ravens' first possession of the half, maybe first play of the half on offense.
It might have been third down, but it was right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's right at the beginning.
First set of downs, at least, I think. Lamar tries a touch float pass, which the read was good. I think if he gets it over that linebacker, the guy was open there on the sideline. And who was on the call? Romo fucking blew his load about the linebacker high pointing the football. He did not even really jump that high.
He jumped so high.
Give me a fucking break, Tony Romo. Get out of here.
The camera couldn't even keep his whole body on. It was incredible.
Rookie, I forget his first name, Highsmith.
Alex.
From UNC Charlotte. Made a very good play on a ball. And that gave the Steelers a short field, which is lucky for them because they only moved the ball in one drive this whole game. And they capitalized with some points. So then it's 17-14. Not looking super.
Pause.
Yep.
It's important to, again, address the mental elements of what happened on that interception. And the only reason I really want you to come to grips with it is because we spent so much time earlier in the year celebrating Marcus Peters coming off of his player in the flat to sink and make a sweet interception. And that's exactly what Lamar said that Alex Highsmith did on this play.
Mm.
He looked out, and Alex Highsmith was supposed to be covering the running back coming out to the flat, and he sank, and he high pointed the shit out of that ball. He jumped so high. So anyway, you can talk about how the Steelers weren't moving the ball now. Marcus Peters,
Yeah.
reincarnated.
So 17-14. I don't remember how the Ravens' next drive ended. Basically, so at this point in time, also Ronnie Stanley is out on a Stephon Tuitt sack where Lamar was called dead, was being bear hugged by Stephon Tuitt, not going to escape. TJ Watt fucking comes flying in like Superman to grab the back of Lamar's jersey and then fly off the other side directly onto Ronnie Stanley's ankle. And it basically has a season-ending ankle injury. It looked to me similar to like the Dak thing, only with a body on top rather than just like your leg twisting and mangling.
I'm glad you took a moment to express your bitterness about why.
I'm so bitter.
It's
He's
really
just
important.
a scapegoat, really, but I'm
This
so
is a
upset.
conversation. This is a conversation we need to have because I thought about it, and I'm not being a homer here. Like, Watt plays with, fierceness. He probably would do that under any circumstance, but like, dude, Lamar doesn't just go down. And I didn't watch a game a second time either, but I didn't hear any whistle that the play was dead. And in multiple times in this game, as he was being sacked backwards, he threw the ball away. So you have to finish the tackle. And while I'm at it, the Ravens' first touchdown came on a roughing the passer or whatever, not roughing the passer, but like
a cheap shot in the back on the sideline.
You let me finish. Minka had wrapped up Lamar, and Cam Hayward pushed both of them out of bounds. Now, Lamar was in bounds when that hit took place. Let me finish. Minka and Lamar fell out of bounds, and Minka did an exemplary job not landing on him. Cam Hayward was called for the penalty for the hit. It's very important to remind you right now, everyone was in bounds when Cam Hayward made that hit. Now, let me tell you about 3 other things that happened in the first half. 3 different times, Lamar ran to the sideline, Steelers over pursued, and then he tiptoed down the line.
Yeah.
You can't call that penalty. You just can't call it. You can't call it. It wasn't a penalty. It was horse shit. It saved the drive, and it basically helped them get a touchdown. So here's the deal. I'm really sorry that Ronnie Stanley got hurt, but as long as you have Lamar, everyone is going to gang tackle the shit out of him until he's laying on the ground prostrate. Like, that's the only thing. He never gets tackled. He's jumping around. He's slippery. He's sidestepping. He's laughing about it. Like, you just have to finish tackles on this guy. Like, you have to do it. And the unfortunate consequence of that was that Ronnie Stanley got rolled on, and it sucks.
Hey, TJ Watt, you're an elite athlete. All right? That was a piss poor tackle. Have some fucking body control. If you're going to tackle Lamar Jackson, tackle Lamar Jackson. Don't tackle Ronnie Stanley's ankle.
It's definitely a bummer.
It sucks.
It really is.
It sucks. What the Ravens did was they moved Orlando Brown, the starting right tackle, over to left tackle. Brought in DJ Fluker. Also in the first half, they lost their right guard, Tyree Phillips. So things were less than ideal on the offensive line, which was more glaring of an issue in pass protection. I think it's easier to run the ball with backup linemen. I think it's easier in general to run block and be the aggressor than to pass protect, especially for a quarterback like Lamar. Which is one of 2 things that I think forced the Ravens to play to their strengths, which they should have been doing all season long. So the second thing was Mark Ingram was inactive due to an injury for this game. And so J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards obviously had more of a role in the offense. Dobbins looked great in the read option, and they ran the read option to damn perfection. You know, they had the one drive where like Lamar kept it on a read option play and like nobody was near him. Like they'd run it a bunch of times in a row right up the gut, and like they just ran it very similarly to 2019, where the defense was clearly on their heels and didn't really know what to do about it, and seemed off balance. That was like the height of the Ravens offense in this game. And the Ravens offense was good all game long. Even when they were chasing, so even when they were trailing, which is the big fucking knock, the Ravens moved the ball effectively. Even as they were driving down the field with like 6 minutes left, like I felt like they were moving the ball too quickly. And they ended up not scoring because they failed on a fourth down conversion, I think.
Oh yes.
But like I was like, it was one of those like you want the score, but you don't want them to score too fast, because being a Ravens fan, you never do trust giving the ball back to Ben, no matter how he's looked the rest of the game. So the Steelers put together one good, like, full length of the field drive in this game. It was very great timing for them, where Ben made a really nice throw to Claypool in zone coverage. It was just a really good route combination, and Ben read the defense properly and made a nice throw to the corner. It was kind of a similar throw. Obviously different coverages, similar throw, but opposite side from the Boykin throw that Lamar made. So the Steelers won 28-24. After the drive that stalled with the fourth down play for the Ravens, I don't think the Steelers got a first down, did they? Or they got one first down, maybe? They were pinned deep
because it was already 2-minute warning basically.
Yeah, they were pinned deep, like, and they ran a play, I think, and up to the 2-minute warning. Either way, the Steelers had to punt deep in their own territory. Ravens got the ball back, like just on the other side of midfield, needing a touchdown, and they got down to like the 25-yard line. Last play of the game, Lamar throws it from around the 30 to Willie Snead, which I given the circumstance, I think was a good throw. It's a Hail Mary, effectively. It's a short Hail Mary, effectively. Like, he gave Willie Snead a chance. Willie Snead also got murdered. And I will say what I'm going to say next with a caveat, because this is not me being a homer. I understand that on the last play of games, pass interference never gets called. We saw it on Monday Night Football, Tampa Bay and the Giants. Like, it just doesn't get called. It's not a thing. I think if that play happens in the middle of the game, you get a flag for Willie Snead getting demolished in midair trying to catch a football.
I'm going to tell you, one, why your coach is such a little bitch, and two, why you're wrong. Because after the game, Harbaugh comes out about protecting the players and blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
blah,
there
blah,
is a
protect the
penalty for
players.
hitting a defenseless receiver, which was the definition of what you are when you're in midair, arms
Everybody was in
outstretched
midair.
for a football.
Here's another definition. Everybody has a right to the ball, and both the players were coming back to the ball. Minka wasn't even looking at him. They were both playing the ball.
What about the other guy that undercut him? That wasn't making a play on the ball.
That's trickier. But I haven't heard anyone make any case, and I think you could make make the argument that that didn't happen until after the ball had already come through.
Maybe. I haven't watched it much. It's too painful.
The only part of the hit that happened before the ball or as the ball came in was Minka. And he didn't even know that your little boy was there. He just happened to be in Minka's space and he cleaned him out on accident.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens.
I'm not lobbying for a flag. I understand that penalty doesn't get called in that situation ever. It just doesn't. I don't expect it. I wasn't expecting that penalty. Like,
good.
I wasn't
I just
upset.
want to make it clear to you and your coach what was happening.
Hey, you know what though? You know what though? That John Harbaugh complaining, that is just an investment for later. Put it in the bank, just like Phil Jackson used to do in playoff series. You know, put it in their minds.
Before we venture forth, and I hope this was therapeutic for you, you walked us through.
It was a little bit. So the last thing that I want to say, total yardage, Ravens 457, Steelers 221. The Ravens butt blasted the Steelers everywhere except on the scoreboard and turnover differential.
Speaking of turnover differential, would you like to talk about how you feel about Lamar and the passing game right now? Because turnover differential is a legitimate factor. He has now thrown 5 interceptions in 2 games against the Steelers. So that's not that good. That's not that unanimous MVP-ish.
He's only played the Steelers twice.
Yeah.
The first game was like over a year ago. He probably had like 10 career starts at that point.
Not worried. I could pull it out of you.
Not worried about it. Not worried about last year.
All right, we'll focus on this one then.
This year, I mean, yeah, it's 2 bad throws. He's a young. He still needs to develop as a passer, obviously,
and as a decision maker. He had multiple fumbles in the game, some of which he induced himself in the open field.
Oh, the one that he induced himself in the open field, it was wet, first of all. All right.
He's an idiot.
And he was tucking the ball. He was carrying it out here, running all willy-nilly, and as a player came near him, he was tucking the ball, and that's when the fumble happened.
I don't know how that's a justification to you. He's a mess.
It was fluky. You got to tuck the ball at some point, whether it happens in the open field or when you start your run. Like, the ball was wet. He had to tuck the ball. He tucked it. It's fine.
Into the ground.
I'm not worried about it.
All right, it's fine. Okay, so the passing game's fine. He made 2 bad throws. And
yeah, he's got to not make those mistakes. That's obvious. That's it. I mean, he just has to.
Yeah, I mean, no one here is going to debate the fact that Lamar, the unanimous MVP, lost the game. Like he lost the game. It's you know what's great about this? It's such a team sport. It's so hard to determine like who did what. But right now we have this perfect opportunity. We could just say it crystal clear. Lamar lost the game against your biggest rival. And I know it hurts, but we at least know what happened.
I will add this. Lamar, because of the read option, is also the only reason it was a game.
I agree. I don't need to rub it in, so let's talk about that because you already know the pain of the loss. It sucks to have those statistical advantages and not win. And the game was a really, really tense game. The first quarter, I almost started just seizing up because there was the pick 6, and then the Ravens got the ball and they drove all the way down the field, and then Bud Dupree strip sacked Lamar. That one wasn't his fault. He held the ball too long, but he didn't see the sack coming or anything. And then the Steelers fumbled right after that, and then the Ravens got touched. There's like 3 turnovers in the first 10 minutes, and I was just losing my cool. Anyway, the Ravens went back to the bread and butter. This was one of the things I said I was very worried about. They went back to the pistol formation. They went back to the read option. And what happened was the Steelers, and I think that this was a reasonable approach, and they might even do it again, even though it went so poorly. They committed the outside linebacker that normally has done such a good job crashing down the line of scrimmage and a lot of times creating tackles for a loss
Especially
to
Bud.
Lamar. They just committed it to Lamar, and it was TJ and Bud, and the Steelers were really disciplined about it almost the whole time. Bud missed one, and Lamar did a great job of reading it and getting like 25-yard runners. It was a long run.
Yeah,
So,
around the left side on that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, major credit to Lamar for being so patient and still on it. Even though the Steelers were committed to doing that, the one time he missed, Lamar was ready. And the only other time I noticed a linebacker hesitate was later in the game. TJ Watt committed to Lamar, but then was still able to tackle Dobbins for a loss once. And, in a game where you get run on for 265 yards, it's just a pretty small victory, but a really nice run defense by Watt. So that was awesome. The Ravens really committed to that. And for the most part, I just thought they were on it with the run strategy, even missing offensive linemen. They did a really good job. Now, you wanted to take a moment to talk about reckless play, getting people hurt. Well, Tyson Alualu only played for part of the first quarter because he got his MCL sprained when Patrick Ricard chop blocked him in the knee deliberately. So sometimes actual injuries happen from actual plays that suck. Now, it was a legal block, so whatever. It is what it is. But if you want to go tit for tat on the injury front, it's, he actually dove into our best run defenders. Well, not best, but he's our nose tackle. He's been totally disrupting the run lanes. He has been an incredible run defender for the Steelers.
Tyson Alualu.
I'm serious.
Backup defensive tackle has absolutely the same impact on a team as an all-pro left tackle, for sure.
Dude, he
has been exemplary this year. He's been very good.
Not equal, but he really has been exemplary. And I don't even know that, maybe the Ravens only run for 200 yards or 180. It's still a huge game, but just wanted to make note that a deliberate block into the knee did get him hurt.
However, the big stop was his fill-in, Isaiah Buggs, preseason all-name team.
Isaiah Buggs was preseason all-name team, and he actually had a pretty awful game all the way up to that. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I was leading up to that because they did such a good job with the read option, especially in the first half. And then they were down, and on that pivotal drive that they ended up turning the ball over on fourth down, the Ravens all of a sudden started running the option, like the college option, where a running back sweeps out wide and the quarterback trails and kind of runs inside. And if the tackler commits to the quarterback, they do a pitch to the running back who's outside of them. For those of you who don't watch much college football, it's very uncommon in the NFL. And the Steelers are in the NFL, so they had no idea what the fuck was going on. The Ravens, by my count, the Ravens ran it 6 times for 400 yards. Is what it felt like. It was devastating. They did not know what to do, and they ran all the way down to the 6-yard line. And I was like, "Damn it, that was really clever." And the Steelers I don't think they have an answer. And thank the Lord and Sonny Jesus that on 4th and 3, the Ravens decided to run a spread. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen on this play, but I'm so thankful there's not a running back on the field. And it was a designed QB draw, or at least that's how Lamar decided to do it when he read the defense. And Isaiah Buggs made his one big play of the game. But overall, I thought that the Ravens' running game was really well schemed and really well executed. Which leads me to my respect an opponent that I didn't respect leading into the game. And that would be J.K. I was totally fine with him getting lots of carries in the read option if they had to do it specifically. He handled it really well. And I would say beware. He's not the strongest guy, but he has really good balance. So if you tackle him with any sort of weak-ass nonsense, especially like arm tackles around the shoulders, he's he's not going anywhere but forward for more yards. And that happened against the Steelers a number of times when things got broken down in the secondary today. And he had a few, well, Sunday, he had a few pretty big runs. So he deserves some respect. And if Ingram stays hurt, he might have a few big games. He's not bad.
Yeah, I think Ingram's injury could very well be kind of a blessing in disguise, just accelerating the transition to J.K. Dobbins, because he's been really good. The the week before the Steelers, the Eagles game, he had like one carry, and it was like one carry for 43 yards, and he only had one carry, and it was like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
like, what the hell? So he's been a little spark on offense in the little sprinkling of touches that he's gotten so far this year leading into this game. So yeah, I hope to see more of him. But Gus Edwards is just like made for Ravens Steelers. Like if Gus Edwards was around in the 1990s, he'd be like a Pro Bowl, like perennial running back.
yeah. He's good. He is. We talked about it before, and he did exactly kind of what we suspected he would do, which is like run right up the middle for
Fall
5-6 yards.
Yeah.
Like, it was it was good. It was a thumping in the run game. I think the defense from the Steelers will bounce back in terms of at least defending the run all the way up until they play the Ravens again. I think the Ravens are very unique in the challenges that they can offer any team. But the bottom line is the Ravens are, no matter how you slice it, still one of the top few teams in the AFC. So the Steelers are going to have to scheme it up and figure out ways to possibly challenge that a little bit better. One of which might be involved in a trade that they just made. This is probably a good time to talk about it. Steelers traded for another
With the
inside
Jets.
linebacker. Yep, Jets linebacker Avery Williamson. Some people are pretty fired up about him. He was a kind of 100 tackle a year guy all the way until last year when he did the old ACL deal. And he's not the same player as he was yet. And his style of play is very similar to Vince Williams and Robert Spillane. So if you're a Steeler fan and you're thinking, yes, we got a linebacker that can cover, you're wrong. He is given up. He's given up catches on, I think, if I'm remembering correctly from Steelers Depot, 22 out of 24 times. So he's not, but he tackles. He's a tackler. I'm not necessarily expecting him to step into the starting lineup for Spillane. So Spillane is calling the defense right now, and he's playing pretty well. And he did, pick six and coverage. So we'll see. I think they'll let them compete, but I think Spillane still has the inside track on the starting lineup.
Avery Williamson also posted an all-time like Instagram trade reaction post where
Like
he
that
is in
bus stop thing?
full uniform at like a bus stop in New York City with an umbrella, like helmet on, visor, like everything, like holding his thumb out.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's got to be over the moon. He's going from an 0-7 or 0-8 to 7-0. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy. That the win differential has to be like as high as any trade in like history. Um, so that's exciting. We'll see how it goes. I don't have a whole lot else to say about this game. I thought Juju had a really great game. Maybe not as statistically, but he picked up some big time third downs.
Yeah.
He had a 3rd-and-1 catch where I think he gained 1.5 yards on Marlon Humphrey. I'll tell you right now, if you can gain 1.5 yards on Marlon Humphrey when he's ready for it, that's good work. He's probably one of the only receivers that physically is actually like a good, not good as an advantage, but like a good, fun matchup to watch with Marlon Humphrey. They're relatively equal that way. So a lot of good stuff from him. It's a good game. It's going to be crazy on Thanksgiving.
What do you take away from the Steelers passing game, if anything? I felt like the Ravens, we kind of expected the Ravens to man up and press with like against a lot of the short stuff that the Steelers were doing, and they targeted Terrell Bonds like a lot, which
Yeah.
fair enough. If there's a guy to target, he's the one. And Harbaugh even said like for the circumstance that he was in, he thought he played pretty well. And then in the second half, when the Steelers did start moving the ball, there was some stuff about like Ben basically calling out just like route combinations to each side of the line to make plays.
I considered making a lot of jokes at you about how Ben Roethlisberger outfoxed Greg Roman in this game with his backyard football play calling, but I decided not to go that direction because we've already talked a lot. Um, I think basically what I took away from this game was, frankly, a fair amount of what I predicted, and you, frankly, didn't give good enough credence to when leading up to the game, which is that the Steelers have a deep enough roster of wide receivers that they could turn a Ravens advantage into a liability. And they didn't do it until the second half when they started running a lot of empty sets. I think that the Ravens are good enough and clever enough on defense that the Steelers will not be able to get away with the stuff they were doing in the spread offenses without being able to hit the deep ball. What they've been able to do, and they did against the Ravens, was get a few pass interference penalties.
Yeah.
So you still have the illusion of the deep ball. Um, and the Ravens are very handsy. And so, like, they're going to give up those calls occasionally
The
just
Ravens
because.
got away with some too. Jimmy Smith got away with one down the sideline. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's. I wasn't going to like debate those too much because I felt like some of them maybe were ticky tacky, some of them were missed, whatever. It's just the nature of the Ravens defense. They're very physical. So, but I think you need to keep challenging it, and Ben's just got to be able to hit the deep ball. He hasn't been on it, and I think that's going to be really important because the Ravens do, they just press right up on you, and they make you challenge them deep. So, just got to keep being willing to do it, and we'll see. And they might get healthier too, and in which case they get a little deeper and it gets even harder. But the Ravens' run defense is really good, so there's probably going to have to be some empty sets for the Steelers to take advantage of them offensively. But I was pleased the second half
yeah.
really went well. I know they only had the one big drive, but they kind of only needed the one big drive. It felt like I think Roethlisberger was like 13 for 15 in the second half for 2 touchdowns and some yards. So
Yeah.
Frankly, it feels good to be right.
All right. So that can lead us into next week. So the Ravens lost Ronnie Stanley for the year in this football game. And then on Monday, it came out that Marlon Humphrey broke the news via Twitter that Marlon Humphrey, quote, got the Rona, came down with the cocoa. So Marlon Humphrey went on the COVID IR reserve thing, and then following contact tracing, like half of the Ravens starters followed him, and some other guys, Judon, Deshaun Elliott, Patrick Queen,
Yep.
Malik Harrison. And then Ravens Twitter proceeded to go into call Peter Bulware, call Jamie Sharper mode, call Bart Scott, and so it's interesting. So the subsequent guys, I think, just have to continue to get negative tests up until game day, and they can play, but they are not able to practice the rest of the week. The Ravens are able to practice, but they moved all meetings to like virtual meetings. So we'll see. I'm not clear on what Marlon Humphrey has to do. I guess he's out Sunday. I think he's already been ruled out Sunday.
Yeah, my understanding is that it all depends on symptoms, and it's weird with him because he had symptoms last week,
Yeah.
but it was before he tested positive, and he tested negative while he had the symptoms. So if the NFL counts it that way, I think he's out at least 10 days, which would put him borderline out this week and next week. And if they call it no symptoms, then I think he's got a pretty decent chance, as long as he tests negative.
Right.
I think twice of coming back after this week's game.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't really know where that's at.
so the Ravens sit at 5-2, and on Sunday at 1, they're gonna head up to Indianapolis. Uh, a lot of Ravens fans are calling this hate month, because the Ravens. Hear me out. So because
I like it.
the Ravens play the Steelers, obviously, and then they have the Colts, the Patriots, the Titans, and the Steelers again. And so these are all like kind of classic, at the very least, Baltimore rivalries. Um, the Colts one probably being the weakest of them all, because since the Ravens have been back, there is no real rivalry. There was a few years in there where we had like the Ray Lewis Peyton Manning chess match every year, and it was like really fascinating to watch all the pre-snap craziness between moves and counter moves and this and that.
Well, the hate is about the team, right?
The hate is about the Irsay family, which still own the Indianapolis Colts. In 83, I think, or 85, they moved the Indianapolis Colts from Baltimore to Indianapolis by the cover of darkness in Mayflower moving vans, with no real notice, and left the city high and dry. Left Old Memorial Stadium to just decay into nothingness. And so this is the Irsay family revenge game, I guess, for the Ravens. But really, it's just two 5-2 football teams. The Colts are 5-2, however you want to cut it. I think they've been kind of underwhelming this year, and most of that probably falls on Phillip Rivers' broad, old school shoulder pads. Um, but they're making it happen, and they kind of play in the same style as the Ravens. They want to establish the run. They want to play run defense. Like, those are their two strengths, and especially without Marlon Humphrey, the Ravens may have their hands full in the pass game. The Colts just got Pittman back, I think, last week, and so T.Y. Hilton, he's really good. So,
he's iffy.
Is he iffy for the
iffy.
game?
Yeah.
So that would be a nice little fortunate bounce for the Ravens. But yeah, it's going to probably be a pretty good game. I don't know. I don't know much about the Colts, so I think the Ravens are favored by like 2.5 points.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they played. We already had one game against them. I guess it was the Bengals. I think the Bengals played them pretty close.
Yeah.
Like a month ago. And this is interesting because you're right. Like the Colts do have kind of that run first, grind it out attitude. But over the last couple weeks, I don't know if you've been catching any news stories or highlights, but Phillip Rivers has been slinging it. He's been slinging it. And the Ravens, the big news thing now is, the Chiefs went spread, and the Chiefs demolished the Ravens, and the Steelers went spread, and they came back and beat the Ravens with it. By the way, first time Lamar's ever lost a game that he led at halftime. No big deal. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put that in there. But I don't know that the Colts have the guys. So if Mike Hilton plays, they have Mike Hilton, they have Zach Pascal, and they have rookie Michael Pittman. And to me, that's the only receivers that are worth me saying their names on the internet. And then they have Naheem Hines, who has been doing some really good stuff out as a running back in the passing game. So you factor him in, and maybe you got 4 receiving options. I got Jack DeWill at tight end, which I think even Patrick Queen can figure out how to cover him.
Patrick Queen had a really good game against the Steelers, by the way. Like, in run defense, he played very well.
He also is the reason that Ebron had that super easy touchdown, for the record.
Yes. Well, he thought they were in zone, I guess. It was just a bad miscommunication. He didn't know the play, something like that. But
The whole defense was like, "What are you doing?"
yeah, it was very clear that everyone was in man, and he thought he was in zone.
He blew it. Anyway, he should be able to cover Jack Doyle, I think.
If he chooses
Um,
to.
yeah. So I don't know. Like I don't know if they can spread out the Ravens the way that the Steelers were able to, and that a team like the Chiefs can. I don't think a lot of teams have the personnel to do it. And Jonathan Taylor also hasn't been practicing. So if Naheem Hines gets forced into like an every down role, is he like up for it? Uh, I don't really know the answer to that question, but I feel like if you have Jonathan Taylor, that allows you to do more with Naheem Hines in the passing game and in passing downs easier. I will say that the O line and the structure of the passing game, similar to the Steelers, they tend to get rid of the ball pretty quick, protect Philip Rivers, and they've only given up 8 sacks this year. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what types of pressures the Ravens dial up, if any. Philip Rivers is the type of guy that if he's having a good game, you know, you're not going to do double outside corner blitzes on him. I'll tell you that right now. You're not going to
Yeah.
pull that sort of nonsense.
No Joe
But
Burrow
he loves his
treatment
blitzes,
for Philip Rivers.
right? But he does love blitzes, so he's going to probably do something. I'm just not sure what it is. This offensive line is pretty strong, and they get rid of the ball quickly. So I'll be curious to see what they do, especially if they're minus some players like McJudon that are factor so heavily into the pass rush.
Yeah, just looking at their schedule, I've decided I'm not worried about the Colts. So since beating the Bears 19-11, which just sounds
Mm-hmm.
like one of those scoregami games, um, Philip Rivers like hot streak. Week 5 Browns, who they lost to 32-23, and then they played the Bengals, and then they played the Lions. So they haven't been really playing like good defenses, to say the least. So we'll see. I think even without Marlon Humphrey, like I think Jimmy Smith is still a starting caliber corner in the league. Um, I don't know if he's one of Marlon Humphrey's COVID cohorts or not, but uh, I haven't heard any like drama. I'm pretty sure if any of those guys also test, like we're talking about moving games and things like that. Um,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think you're right
so
that
it's a hard game because of all the uncertainty with the players and COVID.
yeah, I mean, with all the starters, the defense has a clear advantage. I think that if you asked each of us which defense we'd rather have, like the Steelers or the Ravens, we'd both answer our own teams, and it would be pretty fair. Like they're both playing really, really well. Um, so with all your starters, really good team. I am very interested to see what sort of strategies the offense employs, though, because the Colts defense, it's playing really well, and
Yeah.
again, another very strong run defense, which obviously shouldn't intimidate you at all for good reason. But it could if they go away from the stuff they did this week.
Right.
If they go back to more traditional looks, like maybe it doesn't work as well with the offensive line injuries and stuff. And then in the passing game, the Colts have 11 interceptions this year already. 4 guys with 2. Like they will they won't fool about with these back-footed nonsense silly throws. Like if Lamar isn't on his P's and Q's, like this is going to be a turnover game. Um, so I'm just interested to see what they do. Like I feel like a lesser organization would be reeling a little bit. Um, is a rivalry game. The
Yeah.
MVP just wasn't happen. I don't think that'll happen to the Ravens, but it's a little bit of a tense moment. This is a good defense, and if they don't have a good game plan and good execution, um, the Colts could stay in it and make it a sloppy kind of mess of a game.
Yeah, I think just based on the just how the Ravens are as an organization and what we've seen from Lamar as far as his mentality and how he takes losses, and I mean he's taken full blame in the press, and like he says all the things you expect someone to say. I am expecting him to look sharp on Sunday. I'm expecting taking care of the football. So we'll see. I don't know. I've been in a funk. I haven't absorbed any like sports media since Sunday. Really, I'm not. I normally listen to a bunch of like recap podcasts. I listen to Chris Long and Rosillo, and I've
Sure.
skipped through all
You,
that shit this
you don't
week.
want to hear it. You don't want to hear all that
No,
stuff.
no.
Well, I'll tell you this. The Colts pass rush, I think, it's kind of just the type that I don't want to say you worry about, but it'll be the perfect test to see how this new offensive
Yeah,
line, which is going to be the offensive line, goes because they have four defensive linemen with at least 2.5 sacks. They're led by a dude named Danico Autry that I don't know who he is. He's got more than DeForest Buckner or Justin Houston. He's got 4 sacks. The other guys have like 3.5. So they're all getting it. They're all on the line. So that's a dangerous line. However, the Colts have a proclivity to send the odd linebacker or corner. So they're not afraid to blitz. They just don't necessarily need to. So that's just the kind of crash the pocket pass rush situation that's balanced that I think has given Lamar a little
yeah,
bit more trouble than teams that depend on one guy. So that'll be tricky. And then also really, really, really important, the Colts have a backup corner named Rock Yassin. He's number 26. Keep an eye out. And if you're not rooting for the Ravens, you just want him to make a big play so that you can hear his name on TV.
he is also a former professional wrestler.
Rock Yassin.
Yep. And he
Nice.
has, to steal one of your words, he has a proclivity for suplexing players and like body slamming players on tackles. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm now a huge fan of him, and I will just be watching out for that all game. Um, yeah, that's about all I got.
All right.
What's this?
Prediction? Score prediction? You got anything?
I don't know what the spread is,
Two and a
but
half
I
for Baltimore.
2.5. Come on, you got to win by that.
Yeah, I
I'll
thought.
take Baltimore.
Yeah.
I'll take Baltimore to. We'll say. I mean, their offense doesn't have any COVID cases.
Nope.
I'm gonna say 27-13 Baltimore.
Oh wow. I was gonna. I'll go. I was gonna say 31-21, but then you went 13, and I was like, oh
Yeah, I guess there's a bunch of like stuff going on with their defense, but
yeah.
I mean, dude, I was watching Philip Rivers throw the ball a couple weeks ago. It's not good. Like,
Speaking of not throwing the ball good, at America's game at 4:25 this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers will travel to Jerry World to play Dak Prescott and Michael Irvin and Moose Johnson and Deion Sanders and the Dallas Cowboys. Oh wait, no. It's gonna be Gucci Danucci. Oh wait, no. It's not. It's gonna be, was it Garrett Gilbert
there's two possibilities.
or some other guy?
So right now, Dallas is wisely playing this one close to the vest because they don't want the Steelers to be able to scout either of these possible options.
Goodness.
They can either start Garrett Gilbert, who I believe 2 to 3 weeks ago the Cowboys poached off the Cleveland Browns practice squad.
That's where you recognize that name from, guys. Unless you were watching like the BCS National Championship in like 2013 or so, and Colt
Yeah,
McCoy got hurt, and Garrett Gilbert came in and just got absolutely gang banged by whoever they were playing that year.
That's a football term. And the other choice is Cooper Rush,
Oof.
who I just assumed was an undrafted free agent, but turns out he's been Dak Prescott's backup for 3 years. I guess he's played a couple snaps here and there. Um, so that's obviously advantage Cowboys because
Yeah.
who knows who it's going to be.
It's the
You
mystery.
can't
Yeah.
you can't game plan. You can't game plan. Like when TJ Watt obviously just destroys whoever he's matched up against because the Dallas offensive line is just an injury riddled mess. He's not going to know exactly what angle to strip sack because of the tape he hasn't been able to watch. So that's problematic. Um,
Very.
no, this is ugly. This is very ugly. The Cowboys are, they might be the biggest mess in the NFL. And this quarterback situation is right at the heart of it. But it's really not the whole of it. The only thing they've really got going for their offense is they've got really three really talented wide receivers in Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and rookie sensation CeeDee Lamb. But the problem is if you don't have a guy that can make reads, like it really, really just doesn't matter. The Steelers really stink in zone, so there's probably a couple free 20 yards in there for anybody. We saw that against Denver, but with the situation they have in their offensive line, which is basically Zach Martin is the right guard, he's really good, and everybody else that's good is hurt. I just don't even know. I don't know how to project people on this offense not quitting.
Yeah.
The outside guys are amazing. I didn't even talk, but Stephon Tuitt was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week against the Ravens, who just lambasted the Steelers in the running game. He was still so good. He had 9 tackles, 3 for a loss, and 2 sacks. He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. And some people don't even know his name because they're too busy talking about TJ Watt. And then they're too busy talking about Bud Dupree. And they're like,
Cam Hayward.
Cam Hayward is an all-pro. Like, this is an absolute nightmare for anyone. It's a double, triple nightmare for whoever's starting this game. I think they're rock, paper, scissoring right now, and the winner doesn't have to play.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a question for you. What would you say the odds are of both of them playing in this game?
Oh, really high. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's
super
high.
high.
I think it's pretty high too. And if you're thinking, well, at least Dallas has the best running back in the NFL. No, he's just the highest paid running back in the NFL. He's got 5 fumbles this year. Yeah, I'm talking about Ezekiel Elliott. He's got a tattoo that says "Feed me" on his belly,
It's
and it
so
was the
bad.
worst decision he's ever made in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, their offense is bad, and it's a shame because they've got some really talented wide receivers that really would have had a chance to make plays against the Steelers, and it's very much lessened. So Steelers fans should be thrilled because this could have been a really problematic game for them with the issues they've had in communication on defense, especially in zone. The Dallas defense is a little bit better than the offense.
They've got some guys back as
They've
of
got
last
some
week.
guys. They've got
But
Aldon Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence. They're capable rushers. As you very well pointed out last week, Ben tends to get rid of the ball super fast. So that mostly negates pass rush. And their cornerbacks are just like not good. But they do have a rookie, Trayvon Diggs. And I have a theory on rookies. They're all very fast and they're all very dumb, but that can work to their advantage because they're just so confident. So I just really think that Ben can't be doing stupid, overconfident things because Trayvon Diggs is known as a guy with really good ball skills. He will catch the ball. Like if you throw it to him, and Ben does do this occasionally, he does throw the other team the ball, like right to him. He'll catch it, and he'll probably like score a touchdown. So they just need to be like really conscientious about how they scheme against Trayvon Diggs. I think they should treat him like they do Marcus Peters. And I think if you're that conscientious, you will beat him probably for 1 to 2 at least
Yeah.
big plays.
Stay,
But if
take
you,
your strategic shots. Like,
yeah, but if you're like haphazard about it, I think he'll jump some stuff. I think he'll. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. His number is 27. So if you're kind of looking around the field to see who he's guarding, he'll probably either be on probably Deontay Johnson most of the game. But his number is 27. The other guy that I'm going to watch out for, this is mostly just for me, Leighton Vander Esch. He's an inside linebacker. He's a guy that I kind of wanted the Steelers to draft. I think he got drafted 2017, maybe 2, 3 years ago. He didn't make it to them in the first round. He's just a fun, fast, great tackler, but he's always getting hurt all the time. So he's perfect for the Cowboys because he replaced Sean Lee. Um, he's number 55, but he's a really good player. So if he's not hurt, he's going to be a guy that you're just kind of keeping track of because he can blitz, he can cover, he can do all that middle linebacker stuff. But mostly, this is like a get right game for the Steelers offense. Like, play a full 60 minutes of productive, good football. They should be able to kind of do what they want. They just have too many weapons.
yeah, getting Vander Esch back is really big for them. They got him back last week. They got Sean Lee back last week, which he hardly sees the field because of Vander Esch, and their other linebacker, Jalen Smith, is also very, very good. He wears number 54. He's a guy to watch too.
Okay.
So that may prove like a tough-ish sledding in the run game, having those guys out there. But I mean, the Steelers, if there's a game to like get the deep ball rocking, this is it. Like, tell Ben to fucking warm that thing up real good. Whatever he's got to do in warm ups, get the Aspercream out and rub it on there, whatever, and loosen that hand cannon up.
I'm with you. I think you're right. I think definitely want to see those deep shots. It's second half of the season. He's been throwing all the time for 3 months now. So cobwebs officially should have fallen off at this point. Let's see the good stuff.
And if you're the Ravens, you're 2 games behind, and you play the Steelers again in 4 weeks, and you have to rely on the Cowboys, led by Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert, the Bengals, and the Jags to find a way to handle some business.
Yeah. And honestly, like, there's 2 things that I would say, and I was going to ask you, like, do you still feel like the Ravens are going to win the division? I know that's how you felt all the way until, so you don't.
I still feel like they're the best team in the division.
Well,
but I do not think that they will win the division. There's just there are not enough games left, I don't think, for the Ravens to make up 2 wins.
Yeah. I mean, as a Ravens fan, you're assuming you make up 1 on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So then you really only have to make up 1. To me, the way that you look at it as a Ravens fan,
depending on what the Steelers' other losses, because the Ravens' 2 losses are both AFC losses, and you can see all kinds of crazy stuff.
We don't think about that until like week 16. Right now, you're just thinking beat them on week whatever Thanksgiving is, and then 1 more, and then now it's a mess. So the Steelers always lose to someone bad. Right now, this is just me talking honestly. If you're a Ravens fan, you got to be thinking, dude, the Steelers are totally going to lose to the Bengals once.
That's the big hope. Yeah.
Like, the Bengals are playing everyone competitively, but they're definitely way worse than the Steelers. But it's a division game, so you just got to be thinking, like, that's a loss right there.
They can pass the ball, but Joe Burrow could die.
He very well might. But he's mobile. He could also be like, he could have like a Wentz moment, bring him back. Like, with the Eagles, or, certainly not Lamar, but, and then you've got, and I don't have it pulled up, but the last 3 weeks of the Steelers schedule, it's tough. It's the Browns who, if they have everyone healthy, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, the full offensive line, and Jarvis Landry, some guys back on defense. That's a team that could be problematic. They're going to be a playoff team. The Bills, and then somebody else that I think for some reason I felt like might be good. It might be the Colts even that the Steelers play at the end of the season. It's like three in a row they're like legit games. And if the Steelers are 12-2 heading into those games, and the Ravens are 12-2, like the Ravens, I think play like Appalachia State, like twice in the last 3 weeks. They don't do anything.
They close with, I think, Cleveland and Cincinnati. Maybe.
Come on now, really?
I think so.
Let's not look it up. It doesn't matter. But what you got to be thinking is like, Steelers have to lose that classic Steeler game where they're just like favored by 10, and then you beat the Steelers, and then it's basically starting the season over again, and you get to relive that overconfidence that you were feeling for the first half of the season.
All right. You want to hear? Here's the Ravens' schedule after they play the Steelers next. Cowboys in Baltimore. At Browns on a Monday Night Football game. Host the Jags. Host the Giants at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, the whole AFC North has a pretty nice little deal.
That whole play in the NFC East is pretty dope.
I'm not calling it yet. I mean, 2 years ago, the Steelers were 2.5 games up on the Ravens with like 6 games to play, and they just like fell apart. I said it before the year. The Steelers needed to start out well because they had tough stuff happen in the second half of the year. That's where a lot of the challenge was. They way over accomplished that goal up to this point. And I think they've proven that they're one of the few teams that can compete for a championship, but that doesn't mean necessarily anything when one of the other few teams is in the division and you still have to play them again. So it's a good spot to be, but I was just curious what your thoughts were. I really thought you were going to say yes, the Ravens will definitely win the division. I was really looking forward to that.
I'm not that delusional. I'm just delusional enough to think that they're still the better team.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, statistically, like, you have that stuff happen. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to think it. I think it's fair to be confident the next time they play, which is why Thanksgiving's going to be so awesome, because it's also fair for me to be confident because the Steelers made the winning plays. Like, they played the winning football game, and you should always be confident when your team can do that 8 times in a row. No big deal.
The Ravens only did it 12 times in a row last year, so.
Not to start the season, though, did they?
Keep working.
Didn't have that 0 in the loss column, did they?
It's probably better to do to end the season than to start the season, but.
Didn't really do that either, though, did they?
No, sure didn't. 12-1. All right. Well, that's a good way to keep Hate Week going. Join our pick'em. Maybe we'll reshare the link. I know we're halfway through the season. I don't even know who won last week.
Bones
is killing it picking games this year. So I don't know. He may have moved into first place overall after winning the week.
He's hell of a picker. Good job, Bones. I'm coming for you.
Bones is in second place still second to Sam. Be jealous of my pick'em. That name didn't age well now that OBJ's out. Sam is picking at a 69% clip. Pretty nice.
That's solid. Hopefully you're throwing a little bit of that scratch on those games, bringing home the bacon.
Just picking winners. So, all right, everybody. Enjoy Packers-Niners tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football.
If they play. A lot of COVID going around. A lot of fake pandemic going around.
Didn't know that. And we will be back here next week, as long as neither one of us has too much contact with Marlon Humphrey.